Hello and welcome to the Leogang World Cup. My name is Henry and I'm here with the Pinkbike World Cup racing team, which counterintuitively doesn't actually race any cups at all. We're here racing bikes. Now I've got about 7 litres of sun cream and my flippy floppies, so we're going to go for a walk around the pits and see what latest bits of tech and bikes we can see that have been released or prototyped at this event. Now, having fought Williams so recently, I don't expect there to be too much, but due to a distinct lack of professionalism on my part, I missed most of it last time, so it's good to have a second bite at the cherry. But let's go for a wander and see what we find. Behind us we have Rogue Racing with their swanky new pits. Now they're a team that is sponsored by Italian tyre manufacturer Pirelli, and as we can look across here, they have some prototype tyres from the brand. As we can see, they have some not a Pirelli yet tyres, showing they're obviously running tyres from another brand currently. Now that could be because of the prototyping phase, or it could be because of the, let's face it, pretty common supply chain issues that a lot of brands are going through at the moment. Either way, there have been rumours for ages about Pirelli trying to get a bigger stake in the gravity sector, and I can imagine them coming out pretty soon. Looking at the tread pattern itself, they are running different tyres front and rear, so something similar to maybe the Maxxis Minion with the DHF and the DHR. I would say it looks as if a Michelin tyre has been crossbred with a Maxxis. It's got that transfer knob that you're seeing on something like the Assegai, where you're transitioning between the centre and the edge knobs. And what that does is it stops you kind of feeling like you're falling onto the edge of the tyre, but rather have a smoother transition across the centre to the edge knobs. The rear tyre looks like similar shape to a DHR2. Behind us we have Intense in their also brand new pits, and they're on about their 436th prototype of that new alloy downhill bike. They're pretty tight-lipped in general, and they're not disclosing whether they've settled on geometry yet, but they are saying that they're going through a similar process to what Nico Mullally's going through with his frameworks, seeing where it needs to be reinforced and where they could even save some weight on the frame by kind of changing up the tubing a bit. I've also noticed on this bike, again, they've got those X3 pedals from HT, which are yet to be released, as well as what looks like a pretty far along version of what I suspect is that TRP prototype drivetrain. We've seen some carbon cranks, we've seen some alloy. I've heard kind of rumours that the alloy are actually kind of giving a better feel in terms of stiffness and compliance, but that is just a rumour, and it'd be really interesting to see what comes out of it. The linkages look a little bit tweaked again, but that's only speculation on my part. Behind us we have the Forbidden Pit, again riding the Dreadnought at this World Cup. Again, there are heavy rumours suggesting a downhill bike is imminent, and I've heard it's coming around Lenzerheide. I think as tracks go, this is probably one of the ones better suited to riding an enduro bike, and if you go as fast as Connor did at Fort William on that same bike, he's probably not going to have too many worries. However, I think that downhill bike is going to be really interesting because I've heard on the grapevine it's not just a long leg Dreadnought, it's actually addressing some different parts of kind of what is needed from a downhill bike. So they do seem to be a brand that seems on the forefront of kind of that progressive design. At least they're one of the first to really build their whole ethos around the high pivot and idler. So yeah, I'm super curious to see the downhill bike. I'm sure a lot of you are as well. And hopefully it will be out and about in Lenzerheide. We're here at Commencal Muck-Off, and they're one of the teams running that prototype derailleur from, we suspect, TRP. Now, trying to get information about this new system is kind of hard, and in fact, some of the teams who've asked, well, they haven't said muck-off, but funnily enough, it's had the same amount of syllables with a lot of the same letters when asked about what exactly is going on and when we can expect it. It looks slightly bulkier than some of the other brands, and it has that B-tension lockout called the Hull lock that you might have seen on the previous generation. But it does look like TRP are cooking up a whole new system to go with their brakes, which have been kicking about in the World Cup circuit for a couple of years now. And I can't imagine with this amount of teams running it, it's that far away. Behind us are the Specialized pits, and we're finally delivering on our name, because at long last, we have got a pink bike. Now this is a bike that's obviously been around for a little while, but they're running custom links. And this is more of a conversation point than anything. We're also seeing the Santa Cruz Syndicate run custom links for their riders, which largely, I think, kind of across the board are delivering a higher rate of progressivity. That means there's going to be more support at the end of the stroke. We're seeing downhill bikes kind of from most brands now offering more amount of adjustment, whether that's in terms of reach, angles, or now shock progressivity. And I think it's really good to see. You know, there's kind of, I think there's a worry that downhill bike development could have gone slightly stale because a lot of the angles have been settled on. But what adjustment, how the shock works essentially, is actually helping the same bike fit more riders better, and that is super important. And it's just as important as having, say, a reach adjust or rear center adjust, because it's basically going to give you a feel that's suited better for you and an easier adjustment. You may well have heard that at Fort William there was some bad news for the Union team because they all had all their bikes stolen from the event itself. Now, event security is obviously kind of a big issue, but you do pay to be at these pits, and I think it's a fair expectation for someone not to come in and steal your bikes in the night. But fantastic news, because they are back up and running. All their sponsors have come through an absolute dream for them, and they've got bikes. They're here, ready to race. So things are coming up trumps and probably seem a million miles away from that Fort William Saturday morning where they realised they don't even have bikes to ride. Ah! We're here at Beyond Racing, and behind me they have a bike that I'm not entirely sure of the brand. Rumour suggests it's going to be launched pretty soon, and I'm going to have a stab at pronouncing it. I believe it's Bikes, but that could be completely way off the mark. Now, the bike itself looks, well, it's obviously a downhill race. It looks to be a long travel bike, but you can see that probably, CNC'd alloy linkage. Now, that usually suggests there's some kind of, ongoing refinement there, or maybe a special tool for a special job. Because if you're eagle-eyed, you can also spot some water bottle mounts. So maybe this bike is going to be quite adaptable in its application. Like I said, apparently it's going to be released pretty soon, so you just have to hold tight on that one, but it looks ready for production. Like we said, at Fort William, that Union team got super unlucky with having all their bike and kit nicked. And it's been great to see all their sponsors rally round to get them back up to speed and back racing. I can't imagine how you'd even go about getting into a World Cup without going through the correct procedures and getting through security. The mind literally boggles about how you would ever think about not only stealing a bike, but getting in and then back off the premises. So at the World Cups, you do get these huge industry setups from brands like SRAM or Shimano, where mechanics like me come around leaching parts and anything we can get our hands on. Not hands on,